All right, I think I'm recording now. So, so I'm just trying to explain to you, the whole. I said from the beginning that your main method is your entry point for this application, and then it goes in here first to create a host builder, and then in the process of creating the host builder, we said it should use the startup class, and then it comes to this your startup and begins from here and goes to your service configuration and says, okay, what services are you using in this application? Services or RDB context. You're telling the system that, oh, I'm going to use a database. So the database has options on what you can use. You can use SQL, you can use in-memory, you can use, there are other options there. And I am specifying I'm using in-memory, and I want the name of my in-memory database to be called to-do list. So, and I'm also specify that I'm going to use controllers here. And in my configure, I'm saying if environment is development, all this come by default. You can remove them, but they are there for your protection. I said I'm going to use routing here. So what you can do, let me open this documentation for you. You guys have to be reading documentation like documentation is food. That's what happens if you're a developer. And the better you can read this, the better it is for you. So there's something called iApplication Builder Interface, which is the app that we created. So unless I enter into interface, you might not get this, but look at the extension methods that I have. You can see use authentication, use authorization, use certificate forwarding, use Blazor framework files, use cookie policies. So those are the things you will be needing to set in your application. Use CORS. This is a security feature that you would need, definitely. You would need it at some point. Use directory browser. A lot of things that you can use. And all these extension methods are there for you to use when you need them, and that's what's in iApplication Builder. So, and that iApplication Builder is what we called app here. We defined it and then we called it a name called app, and then we use routing, and then we use endpoint. So that is your startup file. So once your program starts to execute, then once it's done with this startup, then it goes back here. And then, so once it's done with this line 23, then your program will start. When your program starts, then of course, the next thing that would happen. Now, if you see the way I've structured this in my own code, I created a folder called models. And then in this, my model folder, we did this last week. You guys remember everything we talked about here. You remember the way we defined this, the bool, the required annotation that we used. And then I created another folder called entity.
Hey,
Now,
seeing your hello.
sorry, is
I
that
can't
for
see
me?
your
You can't see my
code.
code?
Yeah, just saying the documentation.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure about that though. I think there's a lag in his network there because I
It's
can
actually
see.
a lag. It's a
Okay.
lag. I think I've seen that happen. So it was still seeing the previous page, whereas my voice has
Yeah,
gone further. It's a lag.
yeah,
It's network. It's a far
okay,
distance. It's understandable.
okay.
It's network. It's also network quality. So if you see my code here, you see I have a folder called entity. I have a folder called models. Now, what is the difference? I told you the other day, last week, that when you say entity is like an actor or a player in your design. So our entity here is the guy called to do. To do is the guy that we want to be passing around. That to do itself, that want to be passing around. You want to create it, you want to delete it, you want to update it, is an entity. So so what I did is create a folder called entity. I think there's somebody I told to put this in a separate project. That is AE. I told her to put in a separate project. So you can put this in a separate project on its own, like a class library, and it's going to be on its own, just like the way you have this to-do app, and then it's going to be alone on its own in your solution. So you're going to have two projects. You can do that, but it's not compulsory. So, but I want you to understand, see the difference between your context So how do you add a database context? You're going to add something called entity framework call. So I told you guys to add this, and I just told you use entity framework call and follow the tutorial. What is entity framework? Entity framework is what you call an ORM. ORM. What is an ORM? ORM is object relation mapping. Now, don't get so confused. ORM is just how you can interact with your database. You know, database is structured in a different way, but in your code, you need to be able to interact because database has to be consistent. You said to do has, look, for example, in my model, you said to do has ID, it has title, it has date created. I can't just come and go and say I want to insert a to do that has 10 fields instead of 6. So because I need to do that, I need to respect whatever I'm sending to the database, and it has to be consistent. So that will constrain us to say that this is the only type of thing we can send to database. And that's what we're using an ORM to do. So an ORM can also help you, do some abstraction behind the scenes for you, so that all your open connection, close connection, because when you are connecting to a database, you are opening a connection. When you are done with the database, you're supposed to close the connection. And I'm telling you that the thing that this entity framework is doing for you behind the scenes is awesome. Now, I'm not a fan of I want to write the code myself. I don't want something that will write the code for me. You can do that. It's good. But your productivity, because there's a principle when you're a programmer, don't repeat yourself, and don't do what people have done. I mean, you'll be wasting your time. It's better to go and do something new than repeating what somebody has done. So what Entity Framework has done for us is that it has gone to do some database abstraction, the opening of our connection, the closing of our connection, the maintenance of that connection, while your program is running. Those things have been handled under the hood. And as we go deep in, you will start seeing all those things. So how do you define a context? You just do it by inheriting. You're inheriting from what they call DB context. This DB context is coming from Entity Framework. So once you inherit from this guy, you have automatically turned this your own class into a context. That's why we call it to do context. You can call it any name, but convention has it. Make sure there is context in your name. Because once you inherit from this guy has also become a database context. So, and then you do this setup by inheriting from base. You guys are familiar with, so this is a constructor, and inside this constructor, you are passing this argument. Don't worry, you might be, where are we inheriting from? We inherited from DB context here, and then we came here to inherit from base. So this means that inside this guy, there's another constructor somewhere that we're also inheriting from. But we don't want to go into that details. We just inherited from base. So inside base, you will now see another constructor. And then you now see all the things that base itself will reference, different things in different places. And then you create a DB set. What's a DB set? A DB set is your table. So you call it to do items. So in a full-fledged application, you can see like 100 DB sets here. Where you have like 100 tables. But in our case, we have only one for now, and we're fine with it. It achieves our purpose. Great. So this is your DB set. This is the name of anything you call Whatever the name of this field is what the name of your table will be. So give it a good name. If you want to use underscore, you can use underscore to do API. I mean, anything, but give it a proper table name. When we do SQL, we would go through best practices in terms of, naming things and all that. Okay, you wrote something.
Oh no, I just wanted to leave to be AFK for a little bit.
Oh, okay, no problem. So yeah, so you have like to-do items, and this is your DB set. Now, this DB set is helping you to define your table. You can put in additional things you want there. Are you guys following me? Is this making sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, because all of you have done this already, but I wanted you to have a better understanding of what you've done. Because I know, because I gave you tutorials and, sometimes you don't understand, just copy and it works. So, but all the same, I wanted you to get this. So this is your table name. So you can put a couple of things here. You can do what they call seeding. Seeding means that you want, by the time you run your migration, you want to put in some data into your database automatically. I mean, just to maybe like dummy data, or there are some configuration items that you want to keep in your database, and then you can just seed them there. I think I showed seeding to a couple of people. Maybe not everybody. I don't even have seeding in my code, but some people have it. All right, so I've talked about your program, your startup, your to-do, your model, your entity. Now let's go to your controllers. So, and then I said something about, yeah, this is an API controller, inheriting from a base controller. And then we did this. This is what they call dependency injection. Now, I want to treat interfaces first before going deep into it. So just take it from me now that this is what they call dependency injection. And what does dependency injection means? It means at the point of creating a class, we will say that before you create this class, make sure you have this class, or make sure you have created this class, or make sure this class is available. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. And then you do that in the constructor of the class. So what we're typically saying is, when you want to create a controller class, before you create it, we need to have a DB context. That's what you just said here. So, and how do you say that? You create a private field of that to do DB context, and then you also pass it in an argument in the constructor. And then when you do that, you now set this your private field that you created, which is standalone. You set it in the constructor to the one you put in the argument. So these two guys are the same, but they are different. They are different because this is a field available for me in this class, whereas this is a field that I pass in the constructor. But within the constructor, I'm setting this guy to this guy so that everything this context has, I can pass it on to this my guy. I can now use this one to do my database operation. So anywhere I need to use this database in any controller, in any class, once I go and inject this like this with these 5 lines of code, I'm done. If you were writing code like 10 years ago, this thing that we did in 3 lines, it can take you as much as 40 lines of code to do it. And I used to say that is a good time to be a programmer, honestly. Yeah.
So basically, the singleton that was created when the service was being declared earlier as for the database is what is being passed into this constructor here, since it's the context.
Yes.
In this case.
Yes.
So that means that everywhere where the to-do context is used as a singleton, there's the same instance
Yes,
the
it's the
to-do
same instance.
context that is
Yeah,
used, of course.
yeah, you're correct. It's the same instance. So everywhere we're just, so what we're doing now, we're just passing it around. We can take it to another constructor, we can take it to another controller. So, but anywhere you need it, you just inject it. And so he has made this context available in the entire application. So we can go use it anywhere we want to use it. And this is a database context. So the same way you can, inject, this database, you can also inject like another service. Let's say you want to send SMS. You create your SMS service and then you add it as well in your startup like this. And then you say services dot add singleton, and then you put the name of your service there. And once you do that, so everywhere in your code where you need to send SMS, you don't need to create a new, a new SMS client or whatever. Just do this same injection that we did here, and then your SMS API is available. And then you can just call it and use the method you want to use.
Let me ask you, what makes what exactly in this constructor makes .NET Core aware that you are referring to the singleton itself, the instance of the singleton? Is it the to-do context class that's the type in front of the to-do context? No, I'm talking about in the line 16 now. Is it 16 the constructor's parameters there? Is it that class type for the parameter, the first parameter that makes
this one
.NET Core aware? Yes, is that what makes .NET Core aware that you should use the singleton that was declared for the to-do context in the configuration services or in the configuration services method?
Okay, so good question. The moment you do this, right? Remember we've added a context. So this guy is available throughout the lifetime of the application and is available everywhere. So, and then I come into the controller and I mention this guy. Once I mention this guy, he knows that, oh, this guy is available. The only problem is I can't use it like this directly because it has never come. It's not here. So I have to say that at the point of creating this class, before you finish creating this class in the constructor, that same context, just pass it in here for me. So this, if I change this to something else, of course, it's not going to work. Let's say I have another database. This name doesn't matter. Well, anything you like, you call it, but is an instance of this class.
Okay, so if we had another context and we did not add it, we didn't
in the constructor, right?
We didn't add it to the container. That's
yeah.
the services container, and we try to inject it. It won't work.
It won't work.
All right.
It won't work. So anything you are putting in anything you want to inject should have been added to your container. I mean, there are some terms I didn't want to be using, so that's because I'm just starting up.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to.
But you're correct. You're correct. So there's something called a pipeline. It's like a pipeline. So, and everybody, I want you to think along with me. It's like a pipe. So you are throwing things inside that pipe as that pipe is going. That pipe is in your startup. So once that pipe starts, you throw the database context. He holds it and he's taking it along as it's going. Are you guys picturing what I'm saying? It takes the startup. Yeah. So it's like you are when you are adding at this startup. In fact that's exactly what you're doing, because look at you said services.add DB context. Then you pick the same services .add controller. Then you had. So you are adding everything to that pipeline. So he's holding everything. He knows all of them. By the time you get to where you want to use it, you just say, yeah, use this guy. And then he knows, oh, you've already added this guy. But if you didn't add this, he's not going to know about it at all, as if he never existed. So this is like, it's a good magic for us, because you can add a lot of things to your pipeline, and they are available for you all across your code. And that's one thing that I like about .NET Core particularly. It makes it so easy to write code, honestly, because you just have to do something at your startup, and then it's available everywhere, and then you can use it as much as you like. Just make sure you define it correctly. So I want to believe everybody understands what we did here. This small dependency injection. Dependency injection is very complex, but this is the simplest application of it. And this is actually how to apply it everywhere. So I hope we understand this path. Does anybody has any question? Is Daniel there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. I just want to show you there. And then I don't think Ehi finally joined us. Okay, so not a problem. We move on. So right, that is injection. That is dependency injection in your controller class. Now you can do this also somewhere else. It doesn't have to be the controller. Anywhere you need any of the services you've injected, you can, any of the services you've added to your startup, you can inject it. So, and then I explained this, of course, you remember this is annotation that produces an application.json. These are just annotations, but they are specific direction. So like I told you, if we do API slash something, if it's a get, it's going to eat this guy because of this annotation. If we do a post, it's going to eat this guy because of this annotation, right? So that's the heart of what I told us to do. So any other thing you did is FEC. It's what we call FEC. Apologies to the guys that doesn't understand Yoruba. FEC is like, how do I define FEC? It's even Yoruba. I think it's a slang. Can somebody help me? Let me say extra.
Good plating.
Eh? Good play.
Good plating.
Good plating. Okay. I mean, technically, it's close to it. So, every other thing is just like, oh, I want to make it look good. I want to add documentation. But the core of what we need to do is what I'm showing you. So your code might be more than this. It might be lesser than this. It might not be exactly like this. Your naming might be different and everything. So, but then we take it what it is. So I'm going to go over to GitHub right now. And then I'm going to look at people's code. So I want somebody to tell me to look at their code first. Whose code should I look at first, please? Right? How many branches do I have? I only have 5 branches here. Why? Ben, where is your code here? Hello, Ben?
Yes, I said I didn't commit my own code because it was not working yet.
Okay, it wasn't working. All right, so I have Anne, I have AE, I have Olatunde. Oh, there's a PR for me. I didn't see it. Is Olatunde with us? And then Maureen. When did I merge Maureen's code? 3 days ago. Okay, so let's do it this way. Let's fix all the issues. Everybody that has issues, let's fix it. Ben, are you able to share screen with us? Hello, Ben. Ben, can you hear me?
Yeah, I am with you.
I said, are you able to share screen with us? Do you want us to fix what the issue is with your code? And then everybody can learn from that.
Okay, I can share my screen.
Okay, share your screen. Let's see what the problem is. You show us the problem, then you tell us what you think. So all of us will look at it. I don't want to tell you what the solution is, but everybody can tell you what the solution is if everybody sees the code.
Okay. I think you need to disable your own screen sharing so that I'll be able to share my own
Yeah,
screen.
I've done that already.
I'm still seeing host disabled participant screen sharing. Hi, are you there?
I'm there, and I don't know how to. I think it might be a setting that I need to adjust or something. I don't know. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, so I think you can share now.
Okay. Okay, so this was.
So everybody, I want you to look at this code. If you see something strange or something you don't understand or whatever, then Ben can explain to us what he did. And then if he can't, I can take a small look at it and then think about how that should have been.
So the first thing I tried to do was to connect my US
Use SQL
SQL
Server.
server.
Okay, so the first thing I should ask you is, do you have any errors right now to say that when I did this is the error I got?
Okay, so
Or what's the problem? Let's put it that way. What exactly is the current problem that you are facing right now?
if I run the program, then I try to like execute HTTP requests. So for the one
We're
that they are successful.
Okay, so first of all, let me ask some leading questions so that it doesn't take much of our time. Do you have your SQL installed?
Yes, I do.
Do you have your
So
database created?
Yes, I do. This my database. I've tried to insert directly to my database and it worked.
Okay, so I'll tell you what the problem is. I've seen like 3 or 4 problems right now with this one view. So can you do a get? Do a get on your API.
Okay, so this is
I know it's not going
a
to
get.
work. Click on try it now, but I just want to show you why it's not working.
So
What did
they
it say?
get it returns a 200 and it gets the request like
Nope.
this is the one you created.
Where is this data coming from?
This data is coming from your own database that you created. That's in database that you created.
No, I just created a list. Go to your controller. Go to your controller. Let's clear. Scroll up. This is what you are returning. This is not coming from the database. You understand?
I didn't get you.
This data that is coming from the get is not coming from the database. It's coming from this list, this to-do list that we created here. So stop this code. Stop this code. Delete this list from line 13 to 18. Delete it. 13 to 18.
Okay.
Okay. If you delete it, it's going to give you an error because that to do now doesn't exist again. So on line 12, click on line 12 and type CTOR. CTOR is a command to create a constructor.
Paul, I don't know whether you can hear.
Ben, can you hear me? We're losing you, so we can't hear you very, very clearly. But what I'm trying to tell you to do is to create a constructor and inject the context, just like I did in my database, in what I just showed you, and then use that context to fetch from the database. I think Ben's network is not very good, so I don't know if it's lagging or he can't even hear me at all. So, but you guys will see what I'm trying to say here. I want him to create a constructor. In the constructor, I want him to inject a context and then use that context to pull from the database instead of using the static list that we had. Hello, Ben, can you hear me?
Maybe he can create a pull request and You can drop the comments there for him.
Yeah, it seems we lost him. He might probably connect back. Let's see.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So what I want you to do is that the data you are returning in your gets is not coming from the database. It's coming from a static list that we did in our first class. So delete that list, then inject a database context in the constructor of your controller. I'm saying these terms intentionally so that you can process it. Inject a database context in the constructor of your controller. So that's what I want you to do, Ben.
Okay.
So when you are done, let me know. Does anybody else have another issue? Can we check what I think I should stop recording this, right?